Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Anupama, Professor at Department of Economics, Punjabi University, Patiala. I am here talking on behalf of Dr. Falendra Kumar Sudan, Professor, Department of Economics, University of Jammu. I am going to talk about the module Population, Poverty and Environment from Demography of Climate Adaptation. So students, we are going to discuss about the relationships among population growth, environmental degradation and poverty and its potential feedback with climate change. According to the World Commission on Environment and Development, poverty is a major cause and effect of global environmental problems. Many parts of the world are caught in a vicious downwards spiral. Poor people are forced to overuse environmental resources to survive from day to day, and their impoverishment of their environment further impoverishes them, making their survival more difficult and uncertain. The world's population was nearly 1 billion in 1800. There has grown to be 7 billion today. The world population is likely to be between 7.5 and 10.5 billion in 2050. All the net population growth in the next 4 decades will occur in urban areas of less developed countries. The ecosystems will also be rapidly degraded and pose threats to poor's livelihoods and well-being. More than 60% of ecosystems are degraded or used unsustainably, which hampers the livelihoods of the poor and contributes to poverty and act as a barrier to achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. This module aims to describe the complex relationship among population, growth, environmental degradation, and poverty, and its potential feedbacks with climate change. This module also aims to find out the limitations of current knowledge on the links among population growth, ecosystems, climate, and poverty, and the implications for policy. Rapid population growth is a key driver of ecosystem degradation. Human population amplifies environmental risks and degradation. This poses a challenging future for the world's poorest. Currently, more than 1.4 billion people live in extreme poverty, which is defined in terms of less than $1 per day. A high proportion of them depend on degraded ecosystems. The poor are also highly vulnerable to decline in ecosystem services and environmental degradation, which leaves them vulnerable to natural disasters. Now let us examine the relationship between population, climate change, and poverty. According to T.R. Malthus, the power of population is indefinitely greater than the power in the earth to produce subsistence for man. He envisioned an impending doomsday scenario with excessive population growth and limited supply of natural resources. According to him, with increase in human numbers, food supplies would be insufficient to feed them. Human population would be pushed back below the carrying capacity of agriculture systems by positive and preventive checks. Positive checks would increase mortality due to disease, famine, higher infant mortality, malnutrition, and war. Preventive checks would include lowering of fertility through delays in marriage, contraception, abortion, and infanticide. On the other hand, Esther Bostrup described an alternate response of humans and their agricultural systems to increasing population growth. Humans would respond to the growing food demands by intensifying land use, increasing yields, and developing new technologies. The agricultural intensification includes multi-cropping, increased labor to land ratios, and the development and use of better tools, irrigation systems, and soil amendments. However, Bostrup overlooked David Ricardo's law of diminishing returns and ignored poverty as a barrier to intensification. Besides, forests, oceans, rangelands, and freshwater ecosystems have also been used by the humans to meet food demands. Population, land, and deforestation. Globally, more than 40% of land is used for agriculture. The forests are cleared for agricultural use in the tropics. About 85% of the land is being impacted by human use. Large-scale deforestation may result in a warmer and drier climate. There is high fertility in rural areas of the Amazon, which is causing deforestation now and for years to come. More children will create new households, clear land, and migrate to new areas. Population growth, however, is just one of numerous factors responsible for tropical deforestation. Besides poverty, a host of economic, environmental, political, and sociological factors also affect land cover change. There have been greater economic inducements for consumption of timber, fuel wood, and agricultural products, and lack of economic disincentives also prevent deforestation. The political inducements to colonize forested lands have been also very high. Poverty and land cover change. The rural poor often overexploit the natural resources through deforestation, overgrazing, and soil mining. All this contributes to land degradation. Indigenous populations of the Amazon experienced high fertility and extreme poverty. The role of indigenous resource management institutions and their resilience in population growth and poverty is unexplored. However, there is positive correlation between high fertility, poverty, and deforestation at micro level. Population, poverty, and coastal and marine environments. There has been increasing human settlements in coastal zones due to their ecological importance for local population. About 1/3 of human population has settled preferentially in coastal areas within 100 vertical meters of sea level. The rapidly growing coastal population is a priority area of concern for sustainable development. Besides natural population increase, the in-migration and urbanization are contributory factors of coastal population growth. Besides population, technology, knowledge systems, modes of incorporation, kinship, poverty, and resource valuation are determining factors of resource use in coastal zones. With rapid population growth, the coastal and marine resources have suffered widespread damage. There have been negative impacts on coastal resources such as mangroves, fisheries, and tourism. Marine ecosystems also suffer destruction from waste and refuse. The changes in land cover, fishing and harvesting, and pollution associated human settlements and activities contribute to damages of coastal environments. It has been estimated that due to human activities, the world lost half of its wetlands in the 20th century. About 60% of coral reefs are threatened worldwide, and mangroves are being widely destroyed. The demographic processes and poverty have their impact on mangroves. Population Poverty Environment, or PPE relationships. The livelihoods approach has been suggested by demographers and environmentalists to examine population-environmental relationship. This approach is based on use of natural, social, human, physical, and financial capital for livelihood activities. Different types of capital allows for a more complete understanding of population, poverty, and environment relationship. At the household level, population growth, poverty, and environmental degradation lead to a downward spiral. Human modification of land cover accounts for approximately 35% of the anthropogenic contribution to carbon dioxide emissions. The effects of climate change may necessitate a shifting of livelihood strategy. Climate change, that is, greater frequency and magnitude of precipitation and drought, can affect population and poverty through environmental services. This interrelationship has been shown in Figure 1. Population and poverty. High fertility leads to poverty of households. Health and educational needs of large family reduce savings and investments in production activities. It lowers female labor force participation and decrease household income. Rapid population growth may exacerbate resource scarcity. The rising population also creates challenges for the equitable provisioning of adequate schooling and social conditions. Degraded social order impedes environmental protection. Poverty and environment. Poor households have inadequate land resources and little access to financial capital. They have less access to technological or physical inputs to invest in new agricultural products and techniques. Poor households are less likely to have the financial and human capital. This hampers their mobility to find employment in response to limited local opportunity. Poverty and population. Poverty may contribute to higher fertility. Infant mortality tends to be higher in poor families. Women in poor households are less likely to have knowledge of and access to means of preventing unwanted pregnancies. Poor young women are more likely to marry early. They have less education and high fertility, causing high population growth. Environment and population. Water and fuel wood scarcity results in women and girls spending more time gathering these resources, which may affect girls' schooling and women's labor force participation. Environmental degradation and climate change can have a strong and rapid impact on population growth. There has been high mobility due to worsening environmental conditions. Population growth causes environmental change. It is an important contributing factor to land cover change. Population growth and poverty are the primary causes of global deforestation. The relationship between population growth and environmental change is rarely a directly proportional relationship. It is influenced by population dynamics and institutions. Poor rural households tend to be more dependent on natural resources. They are therefore more vulnerable to environment change. Besides, the spatial and temporal scale is important. There is a strong link between population growth, deforestation, and land cover change. The political, economical, and institutional factors may also contribute to population growth, poverty, and environmental relationships. Population growth can drive the expansion of natural resource extraction from local ecosystems. Now let us examine the relationship among population, poverty, and environment with a new perspective. According to Neo-Malthusian, rapid population growth is a direct cause of poverty, malnutrition, and hunger. Poverty is linked with income or consumption measures. This approach has been widely criticized for not capturing all elements of poverty. Income should be assessed in terms of flow, that is, for example, sale of agricultural products or assets such as land that may be rented or used as collateral on loans. Both measurements do not include consumption from state-provided commodities such as health and education, etc., or common property resources such as forest, rangelands, etc. The distribution of income within the households are not included. Access to income does not necessarily indicate whether people have access to common public services, clean water, sanitation, education, and health. Therefore, the Sustainable Livelihoods Framework has been developed to assess deprivation, vulnerability, and powerlessness. SL framework highlights net asset position rather than flows of income and shocks rather than stresses. It tends to emerge from self-assessments such as participatory poverty assessment. Following the SL framework, poverty has been more appropriately defined to include income and non-income dimensions of deprivation, such as lack of income and other material means. Lack of access to basic social services such as education, health, and safe water, lack of personal security, and lack of empowerment to participate in the political process and in decisions that influence one's life. Alongside new approaches to poverty assessment, many of the environmental concepts are now being reassessed, such as natural vegetation climax and the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity simply refers to maximum population that can be sustained in a given environment. According to population-environment nexus suggested by Malthus, population growth will rise exponentially and food production will rise in a linear fashion, which would eventually outstrip many possible rise in food production. This implies impoverishment, famines, and calamity for humans. Malthus' analysis of reduced food availability has not been proved correct, as the majority of people still experience rising per capita food production. Thus, the population food scarcity issues require greater elaboration. Rather, it is the population poverty nexus which remains crucial for many parts of the world. In this context, the entitlements are equally important. The entitlements are actual and potential bundles of commodities which individual can access. Most famines are caused by circumstances of entitlements failures. This approach shifts the emphasis from resource scarcity to access, control, and management. In this context, the role of formal and informal institutions is important in shaping resource endowments and entitlements and mediating people-environment relations. In brief, poor people are both the agents as well as the victims of environment degradation. But the poor people are not passive and they know their situation and know how to cope. The SL approach shows cases of sustainable natural resource management and livelihood outcomes. Alleviating poverty is a prerequisite to sustainable environmental management and offers the potential win-win scenarios. Environment does matter to people living in poverty, and its degradation impacts the poor more adversely. Characteristics of vulnerable regions. It is a complicated task to determine the exact extent, cause, and effect of population, poverty, and environment, that is, PPE linkages. Population growth rates are highest in drylands and tropical forests, which are vulnerable to rapid environmental degradation. These regions have these characteristics. They have a high dependence on natural resources for subsistence livelihood. There is a scarcity of the most basic renewable resource such as water. They experience degradation of soil over a critical threshold beyond which rehabilitation is costly. They have low indicators of human and social development, including reproductive health, with women and children experiencing disproportionate effects. They have inequitable access to natural resources, and in these regions, the women have negligible role in social and economic decision making. Let us discuss the criteria of identifying PPE hotspots. Due to high level of vulnerability, the climate change, political conflict, or natural resource decline, natural resource decline often results in loss of life and suffering in these fragile regions. In many such regions, natural disasters are leaving behind a trail of unprecedented mortality and morbidity. The PPE hotspots should have differentiating indicators. For instance, whole of Africa has been identified as PPE hotspots if they met 5 or more of these 6 criteria. The first criteria is that of per capita purchasing power parity below $1,000 a year. The second one is less than 50% of the population with access to safe water. The third one is having population growth higher than 2.6%. The fourth one is having more than 20% of the national territory subject to land degradation. The fifth one is having per capita cropland less than 0.2 hectare, and the sixth one is having more than 20% of children who are underweight. It is important to know about the responses to PPE linkages at the micro level. The first set of responses often adopted by rural households includes the expansion of agriculture into marginal lands or the intensification of agriculture through short fallow cycles and organic or chemical fertilizers. The second set of responses involves increasing non-farm income through trade, crafts, and agricultural labor. The remaining responses are demographic and involve either outmigration, that is, moving to frontier areas or cities, or limiting the number of births. In areas where poverty levels are high, local resource management institutions have broken down and the options for outmigration are limited. Degradation can pass a critical threshold and develop into a downward spiral. In these areas, poverty, lack of education, and insufficient health services contribute to high fertility, which in turn feeds population growth and environmental degradation. This further increases poverty levels and thus perpetuates a vicious cycle. This vicious circle is partially explained by understanding the incentives for childbearing. In addition to assisting with household tasks from a very early age, children have often made substantial contributions to family livelihoods by providing agriculture labor and by helping to convert open access resources such as forests, grazing lands, and fisheries into household income. Thus, even as pressures on natural resources is resulting in their decreased availability at the societal level, there may be continued incentives for high fertility at the household level. However, a number of policy and programmatic responses have been identified that might de-link subsistence household livelihood security from family size. These include reproductive health information and services, including AIDS prevention programs and reduction in infant, child, and maternal mortality. The education, especially for the girl child, aimed at meeting the needs of rural agricultural communities, informal education for youth and adolescents, improved agricultural extension, and other participatory development efforts that are truly interactive, not top down, and designed for subsistence farmers. More secure land and resource tenure, effective common property, and other cooperative management regimes, the provision of credit and economic opportunities, and most important, empowerment of the woman. Slide 29. PPE in gender perspective. For a number of reasons, a gender perspective is critical for addressing micro-level PPE problems. First, men and women have different roles and responsibilities with respect to health, natural resource management, and income generation. Women often play a primary role in management of health systems and natural resources. They are also most likely to suffer disproportionately the consequences of a degraded environment. Women also have a close connection to the concerns of future generations. Finally, involving women in community action programs gives them a role outside of those traditionally defined, such as child rearing and domestic tasks. those promoting women in decision making and in guiding the process of policy and programs to address PPE linkages is a win-win strategy that is beneficial from numerous perspectives. Poor people are agents of environmental degradation. They are also the main victims of environmental degradation. Incomplete property rights reinforce the vicious poverty-environment interaction. Population growth causes both poverty and environmental degradation. Higher per capita income also increases environmental pressure. There are arguments that the poor do not degrade their environmental resource base. Many poor people and societies have been able to generate remarkably stable and resilient institutions for coping with the income variability. It is usually institutional failures in the form of deficient agricultural policy and poor people's property rights and breakdown of community management of local resource base which are the root causes of environmental degradation. There are also views that environmental risks go hand in hand with socio-economic deprivation. Poor people are more vulnerable to loss of biological resources. The extreme environmental stress can force the poorest to migrate. Inequality reinforces environmental pressure. At the same time, government policies can create or reinforce a vicious cycle of poverty-environment interaction. It has been found that tenure security is correlated with the quality of environmental management. However, there is a need to exercise extreme caution with respect to policy prescriptions. The issue is not about the privatization of rights, rather, as it is about community rights to manage common property resources. The privatization of common property resources works to exacerbate inequalities and hence environmental degradation. According to Malthus, population growth will tend to rise exponentially while food production will tend to rise linearly. As a result, population growth will eventually outstrip the supply of food, resulting in famines, deprivation, and chaos. A basic policy proposal is to limit population growth. There is also view that the lower productivity provides the incentives to raise large families for the poor, which would contribute to pauperism in an adverse dynamic pattern. The growing population does exert pressure on productive lands and resources. It is not necessarily the case that population causes the damage. The complex of locally specific social, economic, and environmental and governance circumstances can be strongly influenced by external policy and institutional factors. In some cases, increasing population growth to the rehabilitation and profitability of degraded, unproductive lands. For instance, in the Middle Hills of Nepal, the farmers adapt organizational and land management practices to reduce the impact of population growth and environmental change, such as by using local landslides to increase soil fertility. Would environment cease to be degraded if the population growth is checked? Or would environment cease to be degraded if poverty is reduced or eliminated? It has been recognized that some environmental problems will decline with rising incomes, such as sulfur dioxide emissions, others such as carbon dioxide emissions, and municipal waste per capita will increase. Therefore, economic growth in and of itself will lead to environmental improvement is not based on sound empirical evidence. The reason for decline in some problems is more often due to policy and institutional response than rising incomes. So students, let us sum up what we have learned from this module. To sum up, it can be stated that instead of seeing the poor as agents of environmental degradation or even the high levels of consumption of well-off individuals in developing and developed countries causing degradation, it may be more critical to understand the limitations of economic and social systems that fail to take into account the tremendous social costs of degradation. This will lead to an assessment of the principal causes of environmental degradation, such as market, institutional, and policy failures. That's all with this lecture. I hope you must have enjoyed it. Thank you.